I'm building a wholesale team, Steve. This person's going to be probate. This person's going to be pre-foreclosure. And I had 28 chairs and 28 job descriptions. And Steve was just like, that's not how you do this. And I was just like, yeah, it is. Everybody's going to be focused on just that. And then it's like, oh, actually, it's better to do it with like 3 people. And Steve taught me that. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm making more money with 3 people. And so going big there didn't work.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us for today's episode of Disruptors, where millionaires are made. Today we have Bryant Aplass and Kristian with Hungry Investments, driving all the way in from Tempe, Arizona, literally right up the street. We're going to be talking about how Bryant went from college walk-on to multimillionaire to how you guys became triple net titans. Guys, I am on a mission to create 100 millionaires. The information on this show alone is enough to help you become a millionaire in the next 5 to 7 years. If you'll take consistent action, you will become one. And if you're already a millionaire, we want to recognize you here on this show. So please scan that QR code so we can highlight you. And if you want help to become a millionaire even faster, scan that same QR code and we'll see if we can help you. And before we jump in, if you're here to learn how real entrepreneurs are building real empires, make sure you hit that subscribe button because every week we're dropping lessons that can create your first or next million. Also, our AI lead manager is now up and running. If you want to hear for yourself how our AI lead manager sounds, text AI caller to the phone number 33777. Again, AI caller 33777. Ready?
Let's go.
All right. So it's been a long time running.
Yeah.
Right? I've known you guys for a long, long time. So I think this is really, really long overdue. So we started off the show with college walk-on to multimillionaire.
Yes.
And then for those of you guys that don't know, we had Jesse Burrell on the show a few weeks back. And he credited Bryant a lot of his success. So let's talk about how we went from the first part, college walk-on, to multimillionaire.
All right, let's go. So it all started, grew up in Vancouver, Washington. Mom and dad still married after 60 years, built the family bond, have 3 sisters. You know, it's always been a rambunctious, big family environment. So I always knew like getting off to college was like my first big thing, right? And then I made it to college, right? My dad was always like, you're just going to go to community college. You're just going to stay in this bedroom. You're just going to do this and you're just going to do that. And you're not going to do that. He was always like, kind of like you. It's almost like reverse engineering. Like if you want this type of life, this is what you're going to have. You know, you better do something different if you don't want this type of life. And so I was like, man, all right, I got to get the heck out of here. So I finally was able to get my athletic aspirations put to bed, and I was, track, I was football, I was soccer, I was, just trying so hard to put all my energies into being the best athlete that I could. I got scholarships for being a place kicker because I played college my whole life, and dream team, 4A, 5A, everything was awesome. I had all these letters showing up, and I was like, I'm going Division I, full scholarship, Dad, and all these different opportunities had came. I went to University of Oregon, tried out with the Ducks, University of Washington, and then Washington State University. And Washington State was the only one not offering me a scholarship at the time. And I was like, wow, Ryan Lindell went to Mountain View High School. I had a chance to beat Ryan Lindell's records as a kicker. Ryan Lindell is a Hall of Fame kicker in the NFL, played for the Seahawks, went to Wazoo, and he happened to be in my same fraternity, Alpha Kappa Lambda. And I said, you know what? Something's telling me just to go to Washington State University, go to the Eastern Washington, go to the wheat fields, just walk on. You're gonna get your spot. You're gonna do everything. Go through winter workout. Just do the spring ball. Get it going. Right. You'll persevere. And I joined his same fraternity, and I went to Washington State, and I was practiced with Ryan Lindell in the summer. And he's like, you got what it takes. You're gonna make this. So I'm like, I'm not screwing this up going to some strange school where I don't know anybody. I'm going right where the kicker that, was in my sister's grade, 3 years older than me, and spending time with me, helping me, mentoring me. And I was just like, you know what, I'll figure out the money thing. We had some Pell Grants.
You had full rides to other schools.
Yeah, I did.
You went.
Yeah, I did.
Let's be honest about why you chose Washington State.
Yeah,
and it was because you met me at a summer fraternity recruiting event.
I
just want to make sure we get
that's again when it started, when I was figuring out where I wanted to go, and then it started being recruited, and I was like, man, everybody, I'm getting letters. People want me in their fraternity. This is so cool. This is so different than me just being a high school athlete, and everything was focused on just grades and athletics. But this is super cool. So I went to Washington State University, And it turned out that there was a transfer from the University of Oregon, Anusid Wilkinson, and the head coach of the Washington State football team called Jeff Banks was actually, he was coming over from the University of Oregon and replacing the kicking coach at Washington State. And so when it was my time to go, they had a transfer from U of O and a transfer of the coach and the kicker from the U of O. Both of them came over, and I lost my spot, which I felt was unfair politics-wise.
Right.
And I said, you know what? Maybe that's a sign. Maybe I'm done with athletics. Maybe it's time to make money. And so I started figuring out ways to make money because I needed to pay my way through college, right? My dad was hardworking. He was always working for other people as a hydraulics engineer, and he didn't ever have his own company. He wasn't an entrepreneur. My mom was a school teacher, kindergarten for 30 years. We had 4 kids. Like, we did fine. Our house was nice, but there wasn't like an extra 40 grand a year for school or anything like that, right? And they told me when I made the decision to turn down scholarships, that I needed to apply for financial aid. I needed to get Pell Grants. I needed to figure out what was going to happen. And, my Blockbuster, sales days of working at Blockbuster Video for 3 years weren't going to pay the bills.
Right.
So I noticed that when my money was running out, my dad was going to help me as much as he could. And I wasn't a big advocate of debt, right? Just take out student debt, just pay it off later. My whole thing was like, no, I don't do debt. My dad raised me like very much like no debt. Like, my dad didn't carry a lot of debt. Like, it wasn't a Dave Ramsey type stuff, right? Like, I know there's good debt now being in real estate, but there was bad debt, and everything was bad debt, it seemed like in the day. So bottom line is I started selling T-shirts on the college campus in my fraternity basement. And I found a niche where I could talk to other fraternities and sororities. And if I became social chairman of the fraternity, then I would be in charge of placing the orders for the events. And there was like 9 events, 10 events a year, 150 sweatshirts, 150 T-shirts. And then I would create buy ads for like 3 fraternities, 3 sororities. So everybody had to order a shirt. The sororities had 250 girls in their house. Now my order size, I was figuring a way to have buy ad parties and things, and we would get like 1,500 shirts. I'd make about $3 a shirt or something like that. And it just became this thing where it was hard for me to even get to classes. Like, I was managing 26 fraternities, 13 sororities just at Washington State's campus.
Yeah.
And then 8 miles away over at University of Idaho, where they just had those crazy murders. It was just like national news.
Yeah.
That was literally an 8-minute drive that I used to bring Kristian, and we used to go knock fraternities and sororities because I tried to get Kristian on the squad for the T-shirt thing back in the day. And they had 13 fraternities, another 8 sororities. So it was a total of like, call it 50 different chapters. And I had, 75% of those chapters, I think, within the first year, just by being social and getting to know these people and buying them their favorite gifts. And, if they gave me a hint that they liked something, I followed that. I just did whatever was a little bit different. And then turns out, it paid my way through college. And
You were the only one hustling college.
Like, he hustled on everything. Like, he said he tried to get me involved, and I was like, I'm not selling T-shirts. And then I see how much money he's making. I'm like, maybe I should start selling T-shirts. But I mean, this guy would sell anything. Like, he knew every single event that was going on, like, months before. Like, how'd you know that party was going on? Like, oh, I'm ordering shirts for it. And because of your shirts, you got us involved with USA Student Travel. And
ooh, that was big.
Yeah, I mean, we sold Whistler ski trips over Christmas break. We sold everybody that was going to Mexico for spring break. We sold all the trips. We got our trips for free. We were down there. We were like the VIPs. We went to Cancun for 6 weeks in the summertime and
that's where it really exploded. My senior and my junior year, I was spending summers. I'd interned at Enterprise Rent-A-Car. I knew what shirt and tie, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. I was selling damage waivers, selling insurance, washing cars. It was always like, all right, I know what hard work's going to be. And I almost didn't do the entrepreneur thing. I almost worked for Enterprise Rent-A-Car after 2 internships. I won intern of the year 1 year and top sales of the year the second summer. And then I still managed to find some time to get to Cancun. And that's where I actually recruited all my campus ambassadors across the whole entire country, because they were coming in herds of 2,000 grad students every single week to Cancun, and from all across the country. These people were going to Ithaca, Cornell, Rutgers, like it didn't matter. Pepperdine, didn't matter. And I figured out as long as I'm there, I would recruit them, give them my card, and tell them to go back to their parents and say they found a job on their college graduation trip to sell apparel, and all they needed to become is a t-shirt chair and social chairman of their fraternity and sorority, and they had a job that they could pay their way through college just like I did. Wow. And so I was basically recruiting.
You created the affiliate.
I created a campus ambassador program and a house rep program. So there was a campus rep that would hire everybody in a house. So if you were one of those 26 fraternities and 13 sororities, you were now getting paid 50 cents or $1 per shirt as a house rep. The campus rep was making an override at an additional 50 cents times everybody. Right. And so I realized real quick that if I could put people in charge, and that's where it kind of dominated. And I was top 5 nationwide in the whole entire country within 5 years of graduating college. So when I was 25 or 26 years old, I was paying the most amount of royalties to Greek Licensing Company, top 5 out of any licensing company in the country, strictly because of those spring break trips and the way that I was recruit campus ambassadors.
I honestly think if like Instagram or social media was as prominent when we were in college as it is now, this could be a completely different conversation. Just knowing this guy, like Fashion Nova, he could have been the original Fashion Nova, like with all the ambassadors and like Gymshark.
We were still doing faxes on black and white color proofs for my approvals for my T-shirt orders. Yeah. Literally in college, that's how back it was. It was literally like you had to go to the fax machine to get a fax of what your art proof was going to look like for your design.
You already figured out sourcing, recruiting.
Yep. So I found a local screen printing shop.
Without Google, without Instagram.
An hour and a half away. I figured out how to bring the shirts to the campus through a shuttle company that would charge me $30 a box, and they'd shuttle it. And it was just like I figured out how to work terms with them, how to get this. And so it was the start of my entrepreneurial journey. Mm-hmm. And that I had a real quick decision when it was time to graduate, and was I going to take the for sure thing? They told me I'd be a branch manager within 1 to 2 years based off of my previous, internships. And I would have my pick of the car on the lot. I could drive any car Enterprise had home. It would be my car. I'd have a team, and I'd be making 6 figures. That was back in 2002. So 6 figures back then is probably like $250,000 nowadays. Yeah. And I turned that down to move to Arizona and take a chance at the one thing. And then my dad saw me do that. And that's when he turned in his resignation with his employer and started his own hydraulics repair business after seeing me make it 2 years out of college. And I was now 24 years old. And he said, you know what, son, I want to say thank you, because I wouldn't have ever done this. And I am having the time of my life. My dad is now 75 years old. He's been running his hydraulics business for the last 18 years, and he can't hang it up. He can't hang it up because he loves what he does, and he wishes that he started it not when he was 57 years old, but when he was 35 years old. Of course. So that's the biggest blessing, is just knowing that, taking the shot at becoming an entrepreneur and leaving the comfort zone.
So it's twice here you turned down like a pretty solid opportunity. First one, you had actual scholarships. Mm-hmm. Like, screw, I'm going to do it the hard way. Yeah. And then same thing again, like you had 6 figures, company car, whole team, everything's like, screw, I'm going to do it my way. So it's probably got some trends here. So eventually, though, you sold that company. Investors, you're not going to want to miss Carrot Summit, August 27th through 29th. It's online and free to attend. Day 1 is all about online lead generation, from SEO and paid ads to video marketing and $1 million funnels. Day 2 is all about closing, negotiation, follow-up, and dispo. You'll hear from Ryan Zolan, Jamil Damji, Henry Washington, Chris Voss's team, and a whole bunch more. And I'll be there breaking down seller calls with a couple of rookie investors. It's going to be a lot of fun. Grab your free seat at carrot.com/Steve, STEVE.
Yeah, so bought my first house when I was 21. Didn't even rent a house, like just used my money from T-shirt world and just bought a house. Just planted my feet here in Arizona. And then 16 years later, after buying multiple commercial buildings, expanding my operations, and getting accounts like the NFL and the NBA and the MLB and the World Series. And it's a short story, but Super Bowl 49 came to town in Phoenix. And that was what, like almost 11 years ago or something like that, 10 years ago. And they said, hey, we're looking for a local printer. Who's the best? And they asked one of the large format companies, Blue Media. Blue Media is very well known for just premier work for Fortune 500 companies. And they were just getting started with the NFL at the same time that I was. And so they said, hey, we do all the big printing. Brian over at Explosion Sports, where he's going to do all your small printing. And so they plugged me because I was always serving. I was always sending them business and referrals, and I was handling their customers like a boss whenever they refer me. Mm-hmm. And so, like, you only have one chance to make a first impression, and always, no matter what, like, do the right thing when nobody's looking, because it pays dividends. And I would have never got that referral if I didn't treat their referrals and their customers like to the T. Yeah. You know, so I think that's the main thing, is just, you know, maximize the opportunities that you get, because the small things are the big things, mm-hmm. and you never know what's going to happen.
So walk us through the opportunity when it came to sell.
Okay. So I found out that I was going to be a dad, and, you know,
8 years ago today. Oh, no, a little more than 8 years ago today.
You know what? It was about 9 months earlier today. I did share with you, today is my daughter's birthday. She's 8 years old. Her name's Bailey. Happy birthday, Bailey. Your dad loves you. Love you too, Beata, my wife. Beautiful, best mom ever. And we had an opportunity to become a dad and become a family. And I was like, man, I had been married to Beata since June of 14, and my daughter came in August of 17 was when I found out that I was going to be a dad. A little bit later, December of 17. And it was just one of those things where I was like, all right, I have about 65 employees, and I have a kid on the way.
We're at 65 employees.
What is going to be the next 15 years? What's the next stage of my life? And I had never really thought about selling, and sales were kind of, you know, coming down a little bit. You know, I was really high, and, you know, 2013, 2011, those years were just like so high. And then I started losing sales reps. I started losing things. And, you know, I started this in 2002. So it was like 10, 11 years later was my peak. And then I held on, and I stayed in for 15 years. And sometimes, you know, you're kind of looking at, well, I should have sold 4 or 5 years ago, but now I got to do this. And I couldn't keep up with technology and all the, you know, there were competition coming out. Everybody was like young and they had more energy. And I was like, man, you know what? Why don't I think about like what it looks like? Because I wasn't just
a constant grind too, like with turnover and retention.
Yeah.
Every 4 years, his reps are graduating.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And so it was just one of those things where I looked at myself and I said, you know what? Let's look at selling. And so I put it up for sale. People started coming in. I hired a broker. I had 3 different offers within the first 60 days. And I was like, wow, this is really going to happen. My goal was to sell the company before my daughter was born. I literally sold the company within 4 weeks of my daughter being born, October of 2017. And it was just crazy because I got a new house, I had a new baby, and I no longer had a business. And I was like, what is happening? And that's where, you know, I originally met you, was because I think it was back in Jesse had referred, you know, me as a screen printer for the Disruptors merchandise, right?
Yeah, you were first supplier.
Yeah, I was first supplier. And I think my sister's doing it now for you.
Yeah,
awesome. Shout out to Casey at Modern Threads. Amazing. Yeah. And so basically, you know, it was always a passion of mine. We had some cool jumpsuits that we made for the Disruptors. And it was always like fun to just get involved. I remember Pace and Jamil were on your show, and they were doing like Pace and Jamil Does America. And one day they were going on your podcast on Disruptors, and I showed up with these Pace and Jamil Does America, like Beavis and Butthead type of shirts, and one for Steve, and dropped them off. And it was like a cool way for me to kind of just let people know that I care through, you know, like a piece of merchandise that took time to create and think through. And it was thoughtful, and it didn't cost a lot of money, but it was more like the thought. And so I think those little small deposits along the way in relationships, they add up again. Like it's always the small things. And so I keep going back to, just executing. But it's the best day of my life. I can't believe today is the day that my daughter was born and the day that I'm on Real Estate Disruptors. I've been the biggest fan of Real Estate Disruptors. And because I made the shirts for you, you had the opportunity to say, oh, what are you doing after your t-shirt business? I do this running club, and why don't you come out? And I said, yeah, that sounds good. And I said, what time? And he said, like 4:35. And I said, okay, yeah, sure, bud. I'll see you then. And then I tried it one day, and it was like a game changer. And then Pace started joining. Pace started joining the runs, and it was just one of those things where Steve was pouring all this amazing real estate knowledge into me, and it was early in the morning, and he was my mentor. And Steve, I want to say thank you, because I joined your brokerage. I came in and became the biggest advocate of Real Estate Disruptors and making all the merchandise and the apparel and anything anybody got in real estate. I tried to get them over to Stunning Homes, and it has just been so amazing to see where Real Estate Disruptors came and all your 100 millionaires and everything that you've done.
Well, I mean, it was awesome, right? Because like when you first joined us, like I think Jess is like, make sure like you take good care of Bryant, because like he's super like well connected. He knows all the people and he has all the resources, and like he is like big heart, right? He always wants to help. Because we've had lots of conversations, right, when we were running, and technically it was 5:30 in the morning. It wasn't 4:30. We wake up at 5, and then we have a group text. Are you up? And if there's at least one other person up, we would go run.
3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, man. It was awesome.
It was great, right? And it was like me, you, Pace, and Chris, right? So like it was the four of us. We were running together, so it was a lot of fun. And I still remember like one day we were running, and you're just running around in Super Bowl gear.
Oh yeah,
like, Bryant.
The Super Bowl hasn't even happened yet.
Like, you didn't play.
Yeah.
And then I felt like, why are you wearing Super Bowl gear?
Yeah.
And there's always some other random NFL gear and whatever else, NBA gear.
Yeah. Man, I did make some extra pieces for me. I'm not gonna lie about that. Those were samples that we had to make a couple adjustments on. By the way, NFL.
So I get a shirt because Bryant would get these sample things that all the companies would drop stuff off and be like, "Hey, here's our new shirt. Like, start printing on this shirt." And like, I'd go there and be like, "Oh, Bryant, what do you got?" He's like, "Oh, just go grab out of that box." And I'm like, "I need workout shirts," and it was aloe, and it was like free stuff in a box they're trying to get Bryant to print on, and now they have their own storefronts in like Scottsdale Fashion Square, and they charge like $200 for a shirt, and it doesn't even have anything on it.
Yeah. Bella was the brand that Aloe came from and birthed from, and a girl named Abby was their head of design. And Abby reached out to me because I had the connection with all the demographic of all the women that would wear Bella and Aloe and yoga. It was all the 18 to 20-year-old college kids, right? So they were like, all right, what can you figure out what they like, how they provide feedback? And then I look at it now, and I look at how big Aloe is, and I had a small sliver of like the design implementation 20 years ago.
And then talking about the free stuff, man, shout out to Casey, right? Like I buy these Travis Matthew polos branded cheaper than I can buy a regular Travis Matthew polo.
Shout out to Casey.
Store,
Let's go.
Right? Branded is cheaper than buying full retail.
Love it. Oh man, Steve's got the bigger checkbook ready.
Casey, I'm mad.
But to be clear, like you had a sizable exit, right? Where you had not only did you sell your company, but you also had a couple of commercial buildings.
Yep.
At the same time.
Yeah, I held on to the commercial buildings. They were free and clear. And they were just printing money. That was my income because I didn't have a job anymore. Yeah. And I found out real quick that I'm not a good employee because within like 6 months of the new owner, me and him were not on good terms, and I was no longer processing orders with him. And I was like, this is just wild. All right, I got a 5-year non-compete. Let's just see what happens. But anyways.
So then, we start running together, and he's like, well, I want to start investing in real estate.
Yes.
Right. And then at that point, you're like, I'm thinking about doing this, doing that. And eventually, I think the first thing you did was wholesaling. Right? Was that the first thing you did when you dipped your toes in?
I was buying my wholesale deals from Jesse. So Jesse got me
overpaying because Jesse was ripping you off.
Jesse was definitely taking care of business. No, and it was funny because I was thinking that the wholesaler's job was to provide me the ARV, provide me the rehab budget, provide me the buy price, only put good deals in front of me. And I was like, didn't even know how to comp. I was like, can you just run the comps? Can you just get me a good deal? I've known you.
You were just like,
I've known you
now. Yeah, you were very trusting of all the wholesalers.
Yeah, I was like, can you just give me a good deal, right? And then I found out real quick that, I need to figure out how to comp and I need to become a realtor. And that's when I went to realtor school after talking to Steve. Steve's like, you just need to become a realtor. And I was like, oh shit, I'm going to be a realtor. I used to kind of make fun of realtors when I was doing my business for 15 years. Like, look at all these uneducated people. They 6 weeks of going to a class and all of a sudden they're a realtor. I'm never going to be a realtor. And is it realtor? And I was just like, wow, I'm really going to do this. Thank you, Steve. And so went to class and joined the brokerage, learned how to comp and learned how to look at after repair value. And, and it was just crazy because I bought 3 deals and I bought them really quickly. It was like within a 30-day cycle because I had all this extra cash from selling my company. I'm like, I got to put it to work. And one of my first deals was like an Arcadia Light deal. And it was so funny because I was like thinking that I'm just going to, add some square feet, right? That's just what you do. Turned out that this like floor plan and everything was like, the whole thing basically needed to be demoed. And I was like, I need a contractor, Steve. Who do you got? And he's like, I got this guy Pace. And I go, okay, Pace, would you be okay coming out to my property? Pace comes out in his Prius and he starts walking.
Pace Morby for you guys are
wondering. Yeah, he starts walking the property. Because Pace back in the day was a contractor, right? He was for hire as a contractor. He had owned a We Buy Ugly Houses franchise, but he was for hire as a contractor. And I was running with him and I got to know him. And he was like, man, I think your best bet is to just kind of start over here. And I was like, what are we talking about? Jesse sold me this deal. It was just supposed to be like this clean, thing. My first deal ended up being a new build. And 2511 East Earl Drive, Phoenix 85016, right? You remember those deals. And I learned a lot of valuable lessons and paid for the whole thing, didn't borrow hard money, had the carrying costs, ended up, going through the process. So I learned a lot fast because my first deal was a new build.
Yeah, that's right. And I think at this point, right, you had partnered with Cody.
I did about 8 deals before partnering with Cody. Okay. So Cody, I met him in 2004. Kristian and I were headed up to Rocky Point, Mexico for a weekend getaway, and our friend Alex Daly had rented a villa on the beach, and he said, "Hey, there's a group of 6 or 8 people, couples, come hang out." We were
all couples except for me and Bryant.
Yeah,
you guys are.
Yeah. We were just like, all right, let's go have some fun. Alex was not coupled up, and we were like, let's go. And sure enough, Cody and his ex-wife Shannon, who's a dear friend of mine as well, and their 18-year marriage, I had the opportunity to speak at Cody's wedding and build a great friendship with Cody. And then after about 8 projects, Cody kind of, had said, hey, what's going on with all your projects and how are they doing? And I was going to Clever Labs, and I was kind of learning how to talk to sellers. And, it was just one of those things where I took him out to lunch, and Cody and I sat down at Cafe Boa, same place that, Cody and Shannon had their first date. And it was just like, wow, okay, what's happening here? And it was just like, all right, we're going to start being a partner. And I didn't want any handouts. Cody had been in the game for a decade or longer. And, I think you and I even had a chance to talk about this. Do I want a partner? Do I not want a partner? Is he the right partner? And I had peace with it. And I said, you know what, let's do this. And so we started Green Elephant Development together. We had a third partner named Garrett. Garrett was going to be the contractor. I was going to be the realtor. And, Cody was going to be the creditable guy on the microphone and the social media and the Instagram, and hopefully help us raise capital. And so that's kind of how that formed. And, to this day, that was formed, I think, November of 18, and I sold my business October of 17. So I had a full year, 13 months before partnering. And fast forward, Garrett is exiting the partnership. We had an agreement at 5 years that at the end of 5 years, we wouldn't change anything for 5 years, but at the end of 5 years, if anybody wanted to do anything different, that would be the time to do it. So we held our friendship and we held our 5-year commitment to each other, and we didn't change anything and change splits or profit margins or do anything. And now liquidating the portfolio and going through those changes, Cody and I are partnered on Green Elephant Development, 50-50 now. And Kristian and I are partnered on our Hungry development side of the business. And we are super excited about all the retail triple net development that we're doing.
Well, and I think that's awesome that you had that 5-year plan. Foresight, because like we were talking about Cody Sperber.
Yes.
Right. So
yes.
Cody Sperber was a business partner. And then Garrett already had tremendous track record before you partnered with him, right? What was like? What were
Buffalo Wild Wings.
Yeah.
He was a family business. They had 2 locations. They had 100+ employees, and he had built one of the Buffalo Wild Wings from the ground up as an owner build. And so he had
to pick the right partners.
Yes.
All right, you're super successful. You've got an incredible track record.
Yes.
All right, hey, everyone, come work with me.
Yep, divide and conquer.
That's pretty smart. So get that. And another thing too, like we talked about this when Jesse was here, is like we all went to Dallas together. And again, like I was incredibly grateful for that opportunity, right? Because like this is my time where like I'm coming up, I'm going on stage.
Yes.
And you flew out there just to support me.
Oh yeah.
There was nothing else.
Nope.
Like no agenda.
Yep. Bring the hats, bring the t-shirts, and just show up.
Yeah, you brought swag. You brought this swag with you.
Yes.
It was your carry-on.
Yes. Yep. Anybody who was on the fence about not going to support Steve, I was like, "You're coming. We got a flight," and we had a great crew there. That was the kickoff to, wow, this isn't just my next business venture. This is my next family. And our dinner that we had that night was so special, and the fact that you were the first one out of our friends to go on a big stage. Yeah. We all needed to be there to support you. And I was a big advocate of that. And that was a pivotal moment. If you talk to Pace, Jamil, Jesse, Annie, Evo, yourself, Brett, anybody that was on that trip, it was a pivotal moment about where we're going and how we're going to hold each other accountable. And we still have a group text to this day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of, sharing each other's wins, sharing each other's birthdays, congratulating people on their exits or new business ventures. Wins, And it's just been such a blessing, and nobody knows that stuff, but it is one of the most powerful group texts of the people that are in that text, not because what happens in the text, but just the unknown silence of the bond and the sincerity that that if you get in trouble, you can call the titans of the industry and they will have your back in a single group text.
Yeah, no, it's pretty incredible. You look into it, like, man, it's pretty wild. That's what we got in there. And you talk about the dinner. So there's this is what we had. Annie, it's not Dragonova anymore, but Annie, right? Freaking every night we went out would tell them it was my birthday, and then make them sing happy birthday to me every night in Dallas. So yeah, you talk about the dinners. Like that's what I took away
from
the dinner.
That was good, until it came time for the check, and then all of a sudden the gentleman that said that he's taking care of dinner didn't end up being able to take care of dinner.
Oh, he was able to take care. We just needed 7 credit cards.
Yeah.
So that was fun. So, and then I want to hit one last thing, and then we're gonna hit about the commercial. So, I asked you to come on.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
But there is, like one kind of funny, sad story.
Yeah.
There's only one person I've ever had to sever at my brokerage. Right.
What does sever mean? What does that mean?
We got to 120 some realtors at our brokerage, and it's like I've only had to sever one. And so I had to call you, right? Because our managing broker, Lisa, was like, Steve, like, this guy's a liability. I was like, Lisa, you say that about everybody. You literally said this about everybody's liability. Right?
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, but like, this guy can actually bring you down.
Oh
I was like, so what does this mean? I was like, all right, fine. So I call her. He's like, oh, okay, fine. I can see your point, right? I pay you literally to protect me.
Yes.
All right. So I call you. I was like, hey, Bryant, like, I don't know how to tell you this as your friend.
Yeah.
So I said, yeah, I'm going to have to sever you. What was your question?
I go, what do you mean sever? What does that mean? Is that like, I didn't understand what that meant, not being an employee for anybody and not being
right, because you're an independent contractor.
Yeah, I never really understood what that meant. And then he said, well, you're fired. And I said, Steve, we're buddies. What are you talking about? I got like 9 million in the pipeline. What are you talking about? He's like, yeah, I think the way that you're, wholesaling, it's gonna affect being the realtor and my brokerage and assignments and the contracts and just the equity and this. You just gotta be a little more careful. And I was like, well, all right, and yeah,
can we still be friends?
Yeah.
Well, it was tough because
I think you said if you stop doing this, you can stay. And I said, yeah.
It was tough because Bryant is a friend, right?
Yeah.
Like we were again running together still. Mm-hmm. Right, and everything else. And Bryant never complained about how much he was paying me.
Yes.
Right? Like he was paying a healthy split, not once ever complained like, hey, like we got to change the splits, you're charging me too much, right? Yep. Bryant was happy.
Yep.
Right? Paying me.
Yep.
And so it was just like
he's also out there doing stuff. Like he's a go-getter. You never have to like, come on, go.
Yeah, never had to say, hey, Bryant, you need to work harder.
Yeah.
That was never the concern. It's like, Bryant, you can't
reel it back.
You can't do these things.
Yeah. I think I was moving too fast for your brokerage. But the amount of stuff that I learned in the time and the years that I was here, even just showing up for your weekly meetings and your team and Ryan Zolan. I mean, you had so many just big time A players and Matt Potter and just so many people to this day. Just everything, if I didn't make my millions before getting into real estate, he would have made me a millionaire in real estate.
Yeah, I remember.
And I would have been one of his. How many millionaires have you?
Verified for like 13. Like
okay.
Verified.
And he's going to get to over 100, and that's been his ultimate goal. And he's got the jumpsuit that says 100 on it that I made for him for Disruptors. But I'm one of those people, regardless of my success previously before real estate, because what the connections and the ability of what I was able to execute and put into play.
Yeah, think about those. You remind me because I forgot. Like we used to have those meetings, right? We got Jared Parker, Krupnick, Nate Randleman, Templeton Walker, Carter, Ryan Zolan,
incredible,
Damji, right? Like these were our brokerage meetings.
This is wild.
Yeah. So all right. So then you got Green Elephant Development, and then actually I said we're going to go to the Triple Nets, but you also launched another venture.
Yeah. Yeah. So back in January of 2024, first sale of this business didn't actually happen until May of 2024. We were building. It was one of those things where 2022 kind of, corrected with the interest rates environment.
Kicked a lot of people.
Everybody knows it was like 3% rates. All of a sudden, they're 8% rates, and it's like, what happened? I'm in the middle of 20 projects, and how is this going to affect resale value? Nobody can afford it. You got to start dropping the price. You got to convert them. And I was going heavy. It was like the Airbnb thing, and I had created this turnkey BNB.com, and my whole thing.
I swear, I tried to talk you how to go on Airbnb.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. If you could just listen to Steve, you would save yourself so many problems.
Yeah.
Anyway. And I got pretty heavy into the Airbnbs. And the Airbnb market got saturated, and I always thought, hey, worst case scenario, they're furnished rentals. They're going to rent for more than unfurnished rentals, and as long as my mortgage payment is less than what furnished rental comp would be, I'm going to be okay. But that didn't happen. That didn't happen because what happened is the Airbnb market got saturated because everybody had my idea: go get a second, third home as an Airbnb at 3% rate, furnish it, and just be a hobby Airbnb thing. So you just treat it as like a hobby. And so at scale, I had like 28 of these things, big ones, Vegas, Costa Rica, Park City, all these like, luxury type of seven figures ones. And I still have all those because I keep my good ones, but a lot of my Scottsdale, PV, those types of ones, Mesa, I just thought Chandler, I had just gone bazooka wild on this thing. And I got caught doing DSCR refis in that thing where a lot of the rates became 7 and 8 and they no longer cash flowed. So now my mortgage payment, and they wouldn't loan on a full BRRRR strategy, the high debt to DSCR ratio. And so it was like 80-85% instead of like 70-75%. And so I was not only leaving cash trapped in deals, I was, having higher mortgage payments, and then they came with prepayment penalties and step downs. And there was all these navigating things that if I just, stuck with, just flipping instead of trying to convert everything into furnished long-term holds and rentals, I would have saved myself about 2 years of hard work that I had to unwind. And so those 2 years while I was unwinding the hard work of everything I put together, I said, wow, Cody came and said, we need to think about like home service. And we were looking at home service.
Before we talk about home service, because I think this is absolutely critical. Before we talk about that, knowing what you know today, what would you do differently? Like, what questions would you have asked to prevent yourself from going through? Like, because that's 2 years of work you didn't have to do.
Correct. I would say don't go big, don't go all in. Especially in real estate. My MO was always like, go hire 300 campus ambassadors. It's all going to figure it out. Go big, go big. And in real estate, you want to go slow and you want to go steady, and it's a marathon, not a sprint. Yeah. And I think I sprinted to this Airbnb thing, and I among lots of others, had to, regurgitate and correct. And luckily, financially, everything was stable enough, because a lot of people really got hurt, and they didn't have the means to make it work. And, I'm just thankful that we're in a position, but the interest rate environment of what happened in that time made me really think real estate, because I had sold a business and built a business at one point. And so, Cody was talking, he had met this gentleman named Jonathan, who's one of our partners in Floor Daddy, Jonathan Tesmar, amazing guy. He's our CTO. And they were he's like a technology, like just whiz, right? He can just navigate. So we had a technology guy, and then Cody and Mike Freeman and myself have been best friends. Mike Freeman's been at my wedding. We were all at Cody's wedding in 2004. We knew each other. We all figured, that there'd be ways to work with each other. Mike had worked with Cody at justmyloan.com, which was a loan modification business. They worked together. We were always just kind of like, so they got to talking about starting a home service business. Cody approached me. Mike approached me. We ultimately decided I'd be, a great addition to the CTO, and then Mike would be the CEO. Cody would be the CMO. I would come in with my strong financial background. I'd be the CFO and kind of more of an operations guy. I'm always at the office, because we had other jobs. And so not all 4 or 5 of us could just kind of be at an office until this company starts making money. And home services were trading at high multiples. And I had known.
I want to just 1 second, because I'm not sure that's the right lesson about like, don't go too big.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm not saying that you're wrong. It's
sure.
Like I think there's, elements of like, we got to go all in. Cause like sometimes like if you just kind of like dip your toe, right, you're not really going to catch momentum either.
Yep.
Like, I don't know, like for us, the questions I've been asking recently is like, okay, what's the worst that can go wrong?
Yep.
And then can I live with that downside? Right. But we also couldn't have predicted 3 to 8%.
I honestly thought that. I said the worst that can happen is a furnished rental will rent for more than what my mortgage is, because it's not an empty rental. And so again, I wish it was a trend. Airbnb was
it was really
very much.
We talked about it on the show.
Yep. And I don't ever want to put my future in somebody else's algorithm. And I felt like one change on their platform, they could just stop marketing my property.
And that's what we talk about, like Airbnb, like the risk of Airbnb is like,
yep.
We were talking about the regulation risk, right? The city risk. Like if Scottsdale decides no more Airbnb, is like, well, now what do you do?
Yeah. You dealt with that in Vegas.
Yeah. So definitely that's what I mean by, I wish I didn't go buy 28 of them. I wish I would have just,
moderation.
If I would have been able to put permanent debt on them and go slower, and then just gradually, grow. But I just thought that the rates were going to be this way, and I need to buy everything before the rates change. And I got caught in the middle.
From an outsider's perspective, watching him and Cody and those guys do this, didn't frankly understand how you could just go find any house and turn it into an Airbnb. Like it made sense, like what he's talking about, the ones they're keeping, which are in certain
the one that have the intangibles,
key travel destinations. Like they make sense. Like you're going to have a bachelor party is going to come in and need 10 bedrooms and like a pool table and stuff. But like some of these tucked in a neighborhood didn't necessarily.
Yeah, that never penciled out for me.
Yeah, it didn't make sense.
So, all right. So now going back to this. So you're saying you were aware that home services sell for a high multiple.
Yeah, I just didn't want to be in an environment with real estate where if an interest rate changes like it did, what are you going to do for 2 years? How are you going to make money? Everything kind of stopped. The institutional funds stopped buying, right? Everything dried up. Wholesaling was pretty much like really hard, unless you were very good at virtual and you identified, what markets you could really shift to. And I was never good at virtual. Every time I tried to do 8 markets, this you'll appreciate this. I was like, all right, I'm building a wholesale team, Steve. I have these manila envelopes and everybody has their chair and this person's going to be probate. This person's going to be pre-foreclosure. This person's going to be, whatever it was, utility list. This person, and I had 28 chairs and 28 job descriptions and I hired 28 people and I had started them all on day one. And Templeton Walker came in and Steve was just like, that's not how you do this. And I was just like, yeah, it is. Everybody's going to be focused on just that. And then it's like, that was another thing. I went really big and tried to get like a really big wholesale team. And I had one of the largest besides Keegley. In a matter of like 12 months, I had like 30 people working and my pictures and everything. And I was thinking that I was like doing everything right. And then I was like, oh, actually, it's better to do it with like 3 people. And Steve taught me that. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm making more money with 3 people. And so going big there didn't work. Going big with buying all these Airbnbs didn't work. And so I keep kind of saying like marathon, not sprint with real estate. In business, we're doing the exact opposite. In that home service business, we're going big. We're not going slow. Our marketing budget's over $150,000 a month. We're doing.
So when did you start the home services company?
January 2024.
So okay,
we were fed up with just real estate being slow. I wasn't buying properties. It was just like, what are we doing? And let's get going on plumbing, electric, roofing, flooring. What's the best business? And Cody and Mike and Jonathan decided on floors. They were like, I don't want to be on top of a roof. And I was like, cool. I know my buddy, he's got a $38 million flooring company in Portland named Tyler Long, PJ Long. Shout out to PJ Long Floor Covering, and he's one of my investors today. Almost got 7 figures with me, and I was just like, all right, I know somebody in the industry that I trust, that I went to high school with, and I'm going to ask him, like, how's the flooring business? And he took it over from his dad, and he's been in the business for 30 years. And so I felt comfortable, moved forward, and we identified roles, responsibilities, built a real business. And we have about 30 employees right now, and we're doing over $1.5 million months every single month consistently now since February.
Awesome.
And our first sale was May.
Yeah.
And so we had about 9 months between May and February before we hit 7-figure months. And so right now we're doing about 130 installs a month, and we're learning how to get 5-star reviews on 70% of those, 80% of those. And we had to navigate a lot, between just overall customer cycle, like from lead generation to setting an appointment. Like it was just getting the design consultant to get out there and be selling, and then having the installation coordinator figure out what install date and which install crew. And then it's like the field manager has to go check up on the jobs. And so he's looking at 5 to 8 jobs a day. And then it's like, the customer experience manager has to follow up and make sure nothing went wrong. And then it's like, you have all the financing and how are they going to pay for this? And how do we set up 0% interest? And so we just got whacked across the head in our first 6 months. And we literally had one employee that acted like she was doing everything, and she fainted on the job. And we found out that she fainted because she literally couldn't handle the stress of everything she was throwing underneath the rug. And after she didn't come back, we had found out that we had customers that had paid us that never got calls for installs. We had all the wrong product going in. She was giving away free floors. We had customers calling us saying, Katie told me my floors are free because you guys were 2 days late, and it's like a $30,000 deal. And I'm just like, what is happening? You guys, like, stop. Like, we need to figure this out. And so it was.
I would give you a 5-star review if I got 30,000.
Yeah, free. It was wild. So then we had to start hiring, real experienced people from other flooring companies, pay the premium, and learn alongside them. And it's been an amazing journey with
so you're profitable now.
Oh yeah, real profitable. 6 figures a month profitable.
All right.
And we're only going, so we brought in our 5th partner, who's a king in the home service business, and his name is Tommy Mello of A1 Garage. He had exited his company for, I think, $300 million for not even, minority percent. And he's going to go and exit the second for another 6 or 7. So he'll potentially, be a billionaire. And so we're learning with his C-suite executive team on how to do this. And I met Tommy back in the day when I was buying Lead Geeks, for wholesale deals, and invited him to Cody office. And that was our first meeting. And the only reason that I knew Tommy and that we're even potentially, partners is because I provided A1 Garage embroidered polos with the red A on it. And that was because I owned the t-shirt company. Yeah. So everything kind of always goes back to where you started when I was 20 years old.
I still remember meeting Tommy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
He's supposed to come on the show. I'm just still waiting on Tommy.
Oh, let's get him on here.
So I met him through Jesse and Jared.
Yeah.
Right. Because he was selling leads.
Yeah. Lead Geeks.
And I remember going out to his warehouse.
Yes.
And this is way before, right? Like he was already doing really well as a garage guy.
Yes.
But he was doing all this other stuff too, because I don't think he was really focused yet at this time. I remember walking around his warehouse. It was like, you do what? You do this and this and this and this, all out of this one warehouse, right? And so when I heard what he was able to accomplish, man, that's awesome, right? Because he went again, killed in SEO, killed in garages. I think he was kind of distracted by some other things, and now here he is, literally the biggest, right?
Yeah.
Of all of us now.
There's only going to be 3 billionaires in Arizona, and he's going to be one of them.
Yeah. All right. So, and then you decide now, with all this going on now, so you still have all your Airbnbs, right? And you still have your commercial properties. Let's do more commercial.
100%. Yep. And Kristian and I have always wanted to work with each other. Obviously, my recruiting efforts were poor. I could never get him to do t-shirts.
Commercial buildings. So
he went a different way because my dad, which is also his dad, right? Good old Frank Cotta. He told me one day I'm going to have the airplane that says Ragman on it.
That's
what
my dad always said.
T-shirt man, and
he'd make so much money to have his own big old jumbo jet, and it would say Ragman.
Yeah, and so Kristian went into commercial real estate, and I went into t-shirts, and he worked for some of the largest developers in the state of Arizona, and I was always admiring, that he's in commercial real estate because I knew commercial real estate's the big bucks. But I was focused. I'm like, all right, I'm just going to continue this journey on, this and stay focused, and Kristian, go ahead and tell him a little bit about your.
My name is Lance McCann. I have recently switched sessions with Ian Ross. Those conversations with Ian has made me $50,000 in the past 2 deals that I've had. I was able to go back and renegotiate the original purchase price on one deal, and I saved $40,000. I got another $10,000 off my other deals. Call Ian, give him a chance. You won't regret it.
If you like what you just heard and would like similar types of success, text CLOSE to 33777, and we'll see if you qualify to join Objection-Proof Selling. We're taking good sales reps and we're making them objection-proof.
Well, so just to back it up, I mean, we started working on the commercial stuff together before Floor Daddy started.
3 years ago.
Yeah. So we'll have Hungry Investments will have our 3-year anniversary come end of October, November.
Yep.
So the first year we didn't do anything. It took all of 12 months just to even get your feet underneath you. And I call it swimming with a kayak. You got to get out in the current And you're doing a lot of paddling until you get into the current. We had to let all the brokers know we had a development company, had to reach out to all of our networks again and say, hey, look, I'm not doing brokerage, I'm doing development. We had to find our investors. We had to find opportunities. We had to piece it together. So the first year, there was literally 0 deals in the pipeline and all expenses. So, I mean, like Bryant said, when we came out of college, I come from a commercial real estate family. So my parents are, very close with my parents, and Bryant's parents are like best friends. So we're almost like family. And I grew up around, my dad had a construction company. My mom managed the office. At one point, they had 3,000 apartment units that were managed by mom and dad. Mom ran the office and dad had the crews, and we'd turn over an apartment and the crew goes in, fixes it all up. We would buy full 50, 60 unit apartment complexes and gut them and bring in 25 guys and just go floor by floor, apartment by apartment, and redo the whole thing. So I knew early on, and I tell Bryant this all the time, like I joke about it, I don't touch tenants and toilets. So residential wasn't an option. I bought 2 houses in my entire life. All I did was cut the check for them. I didn't even represent myself. My wife did. So like even Bryant helped us buy our house we live in now. So it was straight commercial from day one. And in college, with Bryant, I knew I was going to get into real estate a lot earlier than he did. I just didn't know exactly how that was going to happen. And when we graduated college is when the .com bubble burst. So there's been a couple of bubbles that we've had to navigate. The first was the .com. So out of college, I thought maybe I'd go work for Deloitte and Touche or, AT&T, something like that, working in tech. That didn't happen. And I went to work for my dad running one of these crews. So I started with a hammer, swinging a hammer with a 5-year college degree, and went and got my real estate license early on and went straight into commercial real estate working for a small developer in Tucson. I did really well. Some of the bigger, one of the big development companies down there was like, who's this guy that's doing all these leases? And they brought me on board. So they were a large-scale developer that built Walmart's, Home Depot, PetSmart type shopping centers. I got assigned to work on the team that handled all the out parcels. So as the principals worked on the big tenants in the back, I was on the team leasing up all the smaller multi-tenant buildings and the pads out by the street. So I got to know Walgreens, and I got to know the the guys that were doing the bank deals, and like the shops we were working with at the time, Paradise Bakery, which is now Panera Bread. So I got thrust into this world of real estate that was on another level. It was corporate, and my parents had all these apartments, and I told my parents, why are you taking calls at 3:00 in the morning because someone's toilet's clogged, when these guys over here don't even have to pick up the phone about rent? It just shows up automatically.
Right.
And if the air conditioning unit goes out, we don't even know about it. Like, all we're doing is making sure the landscaping's done and everyone's paying their fair share. Like, I took this keen love for retail and triple net, and I talked to my parents and I said, we got to start selling all these. It's too much. I see my dad's kind of getting worn down. My mom's stressed a little bit, and trying to make sure people are paying their rent. And I went full bore. I helped my parents sell all of their apartments, and we moved everything into shopping centers in Texas, of all places, which was great because Texas and Arizona are probably 2 of the states that have done the best over the last 20 years in terms of appreciation. And I helped my parents kind of buy strip centers that needed facelifts. And, I tell my dad, hey, look, this shopping center that we're looking at has too much parking. Let's see what we can do. We'd bring in Starbucks, and we'd build a building for Starbucks out in the parking lot. And
that's why you see all these little Dutch Bros
It's the same exact thing. So I've been doing this for 25 years, whether it's been on the brokerage side or directly, through my family. About 5 years ago, 6 years ago, my dad started getting sick. We had like 500,000 square feet of shopping centers spread out across Texas, mostly like from Corpus Christi down to like South Padre Island and like Harlingen area. And I noticed my mom was having to run it. My dad was getting sick. He was out for long periods of time. I needed to help my mom. At this point, I'm working for a large developer here in Phoenix who has, built all the LA Fitnesses, Walmarts, all that kind of stuff. And so at that point, I told my mom, we don't have the money to fix these things up, and you can't handle it, and I can't handle it from Arizona. And so at that point, that's when I started talking to Bryant. What do you think about creating a development company? And the way we can create the development company is we're going to sell all of my parents' assets in Texas, and we're going to take that money and we're going to put it in a family trust, and we're going to start investing it with my parents, but we're going to invest it into our own deals, and we're going to find new partners, and we're going to grow and scale this thing. And he was like, where do I sign?
Yeah, that's Hungry Investments?
That's Hungry Investments. And so that first year, like I said, took us a while to get our feet under us. We hired a young guy that didn't Armando work at Keegley?
Yeah.
I called Brian. I said, we need one guy that can pick up the phone and call and isn't afraid. And he made a few phone calls and got the same name, Armando Delgado. And I was like, all right, where do I meet Armando?
Funny story about Armando, Jamil will mention it. It was one of the biggest deals Keegley ever did. We had a $250,000 assignment on a deal in Sedona, and Armando, and I guess it was like a big flag in the office. It was like a banner. It was just like biggest deal ever done. And Jamil gave props because we had Avengers, our mastermind, for a few years. And Jamil was speaking at one of our vendors mastermind. And he goes, just the ability to, understand, that, every chance and every relationship has the opportunity to make you millions, and don't ever just shove off just because, the relationship, isn't being nurtured or watered. And he was just saying, like, we've always, had opportunities to, work with each other or do things with each other. And some people just are always transactional, and they're just not there for people, and unless there's money involved. And so it was just one of those things where, Jamil and myself, were fast friends in the beginning. And then there was a time where, Jamil didn't like me, and I was almost caught in some crossfire. And it was just really awkward. And I was like, Pace, how do I fix this? I love Jamil. And I was like, I'm going to write him a letter. wrote him a letter, and, that didn't work, and it was just like, okay, well, I got to figure out a way to fix this because Jamil's family to me. And all of a sudden Jamil came around, we had a heart to heart, and ultimately, we're doing $250,000 deals together, and Armando worked for Jamil. And
I think Jamil's the one that told you need to talk to this kid Armando.
Yeah.
And Brian put me in touch with him.
And so again, our dinner, our people, same thing. Our family ends up, being one of our best acquisitions guys.
He's been with us since day one. And since then we've brought in a friend of mine that we call Uncle Phil. I've known Phil for 25 years since I started. He's been the AutoZone rep for Arizona for as long as I've known. 77 years old. He knows everybody, and everybody loves Phil, and he will shoot you straight. And he didn't really know what he was getting himself into, but now, like, he just got back from England, and we had a call this morning. He's like, man, that's great to go on vacation and know that the boys got it all under control. And with Phil comes his guy that he's groomed for the AutoZone, the AutoZone account named Brennan, and Brennan, we're grooming him to be, kind of a project manager and handle entitlement and development. So, we're cruising at this point.
So, question about the name.
Yep.
Hungry Investments.
So I came to Bryant and I said, look, let's start a investment company for triple net single tenant retail. That's what we're going to start. 99% of the tenants we work with are restaurant related. I want to call it hungry for two reasons. Number one is we have an appetite for investing. Mm-hmm. Number two is because Les Miles always had this, the motivational speaker. I used to listen to him all the time, and he'd say, "You got to be hungry." And so that kind of stuck with me. Mm-hmm. And it also made sense too, because I told Bryant, I want to do this. We picked up a lot of things I worked for some super, super successful guys in commercial. It's very different. There's a corporate institutional feel to it. And there's things that I think we can change as times are changing to make it better. And one of those is, if you come into our office, Steve, you'll see outside of our studio on the wall, it says everyone eats. And so the idea was, from our standpoint, is that if we look at a deal and we underwrite a deal and it doesn't pencil and you've got to shave somebody out of the deal, then you shouldn't do the deal. Yeah. It's got to be where the transaction at the end of the day, if you want to be successful long term, we have to both feel good when we walk away from it. And the only way that happens is if everyone eats. Yeah,
I totally get that.
Yeah, you taught me one thing. You said, look, if you're always in everybody else's pockets and you're always worried about what everybody else is making, that's not how you buy a wholesale deal, right? You buy a deal based off of the ARV is this. Do you believe in the comps? The contractor bids are coming in at this. Do you believe that you can get the rehab done for that? If you buy it at this price, and do you think the timeline is this and the average days on market are this, if you can sell it and make the profit that you want to make, does it matter if this guy makes $5K on an assignment and this guy makes $5K on an assignment and the original guy made $10K on an assignment? Does that matter? In the beginning, I was just looking at a HUD. I'm like, what are all these people? And who is this LLC? And who is this? And I was learning about this stuff. And Steve was one of the guys that originally came to me, and I said, I'm going to back out of this deal. Everybody's making all the money. And he was like, you got to look at the deal itself. And that's what you're referring to is, does the deal make sense without cutting everybody's commissions, are we trying to turn an Airbnb into a thing because we just feel like that's the right thing at this time? Or are we really going to be disciplined on what our buy box is and if the deal makes sense? And it goes back to me not renegotiating and trying to get better rates with you, because everybody provides value. Why are you going to cut people out and then expect the same value? It's not going to work like that. There's going to be the contractor that says, well, I'm doing this at cost. That's why it's not done yet. That's why you got that guy to install your thing, because you were trying to be a cheapskate. Always you pay what you're going to get what you pay for.
Yeah, in what we do now on the triple net side, it's like a very gated blue blood network. You don't just crack that code. No. You don't come from the East Coast and drive in and you're like, I'm doing all the deals. No, it's network, it's relationship, it's all that. We understand. We've over the last 3 years built a strong network.
What have we got in the pipeline right now? Because that's what the viewers want to know. Yeah, what are these guys doing?
No, so I'm getting to the whole idea of everyone eats. You can't plan to make you're trying to make 100 millionaires. Don't, in commercial real estate, where's the camera? Do not try and make your first million on your first deal. It will not happen. Okay. Yeah. So we're happy with knowing what our returns need to be. Is it worth it? Is the juice worth the squeeze? I could go on with food puns because we've come up with every single one. We're making bread, all that kind of stuff. But is the juice worth the squeeze? You have to, again, go back to what Bryant just said. No, if you're okay with the return for the amount of work and effort you're going to put in, then do the deal. But don't try and get the deal done and then go back to your broker and say, you know what, I can't pay you 3%. You're making too much money. No, because that guy's going to bring us deals over and over and over again.
Or he's not going to bring you more deals.
Correct. And it's very quick to fall onto the other side. Yeah.
Back to Brian's question. So how much do you have in escrow right now?
So in our first 3 years, we have our first 2 deals coming full cycle. Those 2 deals will sell for roughly $10 million between the 2 of them. That's the gross value in the marketplace. We have another 2 large-scale developments right now that are about 20 to 25 million total value in the development phase, getting ready for construction Q4, Q1 of next year. Right now in our deal pipeline, We have another 6 or 7 deals, escrow in various stages, of about 30 million. So over $100 million in our first 3 years.
And Pace is going to be our partner on a Chipotle deal, and he's got he's got everything already placed for the capital, and working with his team. And it's so cool to be just doing retail deals now with Pace, and just doing business again with people in that group. Right. And it's just like crazy. I mean, that I get to do this every single day. I get to work with my friends. I get to make my friends money. We have what we call is our 2020 program. So if an investor comes in and we use their money to gap fund a deal, our average acquisition is $2 million. So if we buy a bank and it has a good high traffic count on a good corner, and a lot of these deals that are coming full cycle are like Bank of America, as well as Fargo's, whatever the case is. We just want good real estate on good corners with good traffic counts. And then we'll either retrofit it, scrape it, and then we'll build a quick service restaurant. So that's what we're doing in the retail space. The average timeline is only 9 to 15 months for these deals. Even new construction, 15 months. It's wild. It used to take me 18 months to build my 20 houses a year in PV and Arcadia that I was doing, right? Speculatively, not knowing who the end buyer is. These, we get LOIs, we get leases in place, 15-year leases, 4 or 5-year extensions. We already know what it's going to trade on a cap rate to a 1031 buyer. We're not in these things to hold them. We're in them to flip them. So again, it's so cool to understand that I only need, 30% down on $2,600,000 or whatever, plus some developer fees and prepaid interest to get a deal done. So a 2020 partner can come in at like $750,000, for example, and then they can get 20% of the profit on the deal or 20% on their money, whichever is greater. So if their 800 can turn in, and our average profit is usually we're usually basically 1.2 to 1.5 million per deal. So on 1.5 at 20% is $300,000. On 750 is over 45% return. And sometimes we're finishing these in 9 months. And so it's like, I'm able to make my friends these types of crazy returns, and then we pay them out before the other GPs in the deal make any money. So they're guaranteed 20% on their money or 20% of the profit, whichever is greater. And they take, even if the deal only makes 300,000 and their 800 at 20% is 160, they get 160. The rest of us split the 140. So we've got it down. We have like a list of 20 people that are just wanting to fund our deals. And now we got hard money lenders that are like, we just want to do your equity and we want to do your debt, because they're seeing us share the debt around, because we have about 13 deals that were in contract negotiations, and tell them about the opportunity in Carolina.
Going back to like the two of us, so you see he's got Clever Capital and I have Hungry. It made perfect sense for us to partner. Obviously, Brian and I are best friends and go back all the way to college, but identifying and knowing each other so well, like one of the things I always credit him with is he's got a keen ability, and you can probably relate to this, Steve. He'll ask anybody for money, and a lot of times I'll give it to him. And most people just won't even ask. And so from a capital raising standpoint, holy crap, that's like, it's like a dream come true for raising capital. But like for me, my strength has always been like this, I've got this like brain that organizes and systemizes things. And so very like if you looked at my Gmail, you'd probably throw up because it's so organized. Like every single property that if it gets past a hurdle, it gets a folder, and it gets a folder in Google Drive, and and so I can keep track of like every property we've looked at for the last 3 years and go back to an email that was there and so on and so forth. So like, for the two of us to come together, it took half of what I had to worry about before off of my plate so I can focus on doing the deals. And now I just come to Bryant and I say, these are the 5 deals I'm working on. Here's how much we need to raise. Who do you want to talk to? How are we going to use the fund? What kind of financing? And he can give me those numbers and I can plug it all in. And I don't have to worry about it. I'm Bryant. How are we looking on capital?
It took me a while to get, this is Clever Capital Fund. This is my 3rd fund, right? The first fund, $5 million debt fund, 10, 11, 12%, 1, 2, 3 year commitment paid quarterly, right? Unsecured promissory notes, learned a lot, raised a lot of money. It was a different time back then. Money was flowing, Trump was not even in the presidency. And it was just like, all right, people just invest. Then second big investment was a syndication for a 432 unit, $115 million asset. That was amazing. Learned how to do my first fund to fund with Vina Jetty. And then ultimately moved into my third fund, which is a $50 million equity fund. And so that's where my passion as a fund manager comes into play, because I get to, offer high returns paid quarterly backed by real estate in an equity fund. And the people that I'm meeting on these funds and our investors, and one guy just sold his company for $52 million. I just get to talk to him. He gave me $250,000 in my fund. He's getting paid quarterly, and he's like, you do this. Yeah. And so it's just like, until you create a fund, you don't get to have conversations with guys that have $52 million, exits and want to give you a test on their 250, right? Because you got to do the hard stuff. You got to actually set it up and not go work for somebody, but move from Washington to Arizona and do the entrepreneur, turn down the enterprise job, right? Turn down the scholarship, turn down I'm not going to raise money. That's crazy. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of risk. That's a lot of sleepless night. No, I'm on my third fund. I don't care how hard it was.
He needs a humble brag though, because you don't get to have those conversations if you don't put yourself in the position to be able to have those conversations. Right. And so he went and figured out and researched and started the first fund, and then had the second. When we started Hungry Investments and we started talking about how are we going to finance these deals, we have the capital on the equity side, we have the soft cost money, we can do this. I focused on figuring out how to make the development company profitable, but the structure of how we have everything. I mean, me and Bryant are the partners on the development company. We have our team involved in that. But when we go purchase it, we have our separate holding company that's 5 people. How is that? What are we putting back into there's a lot of moving parts behind the scene that nobody sees.
Right.
And so for him to be like, I think we should start a fund. Okay, what does that mean? Don't worry about it. I'm going to go take care of it. Sweet. Let me go out here and do this. And it's just become this snowball. I have 25 years in this, Steve. I can pick up the phone and talk to a broker that reps a big name tenant and find out in 30 seconds, a minute, if they are interested in a site. Mm-hmm. You know what kind of confidence that gives you, writing an offer on a $1.9 million property if you already know 3 tenants that you think you can put in there?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, your offer is way better.
Helps you put your head down and sleep better at night. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, that's the point that we've built to, because there's a great play off of each other. He wanted me to mention, I mean, we have our podcast, which we gave you the hat for, which we'll have to have you on our
yes,
podcast.
Let's do it.
It's the number one commercial real estate investment and development podcast on YouTube.
I'll have to figure out if I can make the drive there.
Yeah, it's pretty far. It's like a 5-minute drive. But we had a guy on the podcast. His name's Sean Finnegan. And again, this goes back to your network is your net worth, right? So we're constantly combining networks, and how can we? I had another friend of mine, Elio, just last week that was on our podcast, who we needed help putting this building that we're doing the deal with Pace in it. We couldn't figure out how to get a hold of someone. Oh, the people live in Kingman, call Elio. Elio knows everyone there. Within 2 days, we had direct communication going, and we had a contract working on it.
Yeah.
And Elio asked nothing for it. No, I'm glad I could help. Great. Another guy put us in touch with a gentleman named Sean Finnegan in Utah. Sean's an amazing human being, more so than a business person. He's a great business person, but he's a better human. And I had him on the podcast, and I knew he had partners, and they were in Crumble Cookie. And as we're on the podcast, I find out, oh, wait, you guys are the franchisees for Swig? You know what Swig is?
No.
It's like one of the fastest growing, most trending new concepts. It's dirty sodas. It got popular with Real Lives and Mormon Wives during COVID. It's all over TikTok. If you have TikTok, or kids that have TikTok, ask them to go on there and look up Swig. Mm-hmm. And you'll be like, oh, how have I not heard of this? Yeah. They're popping up. They're 900 square foot buildings with a drive-through, and that's it. and they do like 1.5 million average unit volume per store.
Wow.
And so these guys have.
I think I met Sean at
Sean Finnegan, the X Room.
I think I met him at who's the rocket lister guy?
What was the AI sales thing?
Devin is the guy who owns Sales.ai, and so they work together. Sales.ai.
It was a podcast, so we were like,
yeah,
walking past each other. Like I was walking
with
out of the podcast.
Glasses?
Yep.
I'll have to check. But anyway,
so we had him on the show, and I hear him talk about Swig, and then afterwards, I'm like, tell me more about, like, I want to know what's going on in Swig. Oh, we have the rights to North Carolina and South Carolina. I'm like, how are you expanding in North Carolina, South Carolina? Well, we're going to, we got some brokers and my partner takes care of it. Can you connect me? And so this has been ongoing for, about a month and a half or so. And now we're working with them as their preferred developers in North Carolina and South Carolina to try and help them expand and open 40 locations in the next 5 years.
Dude, 40. And each one is a couple $1 million.
No, I mean, it's probably for us to go in and build it. We have to dig into the numbers, which is we're doing some construction now too. We can dig into that, but I would say it probably costs $800 to $900 to build it.
Plus the dirt,
I would say all in. Yeah. Oh yeah. Plus your dirt. So yeah. But I mean, it's a lead in for us to be able to put it, identify a spot for them and then figure out, can we put a McDonald's or, Raising Cane's or something.
Yeah, if you got 40 opportunities, you'll make it work.
But bottom line is they're committed to use us as the preferred developer for all of their 40 deals.
Yeah, that's incredible.
So it's just like, man, you talk about a fix and flip and you talk about I'm going to make 30 grand and it's going to be 6 months of my life and the numbers pencil and I'm okay with that, to going to 100 million plus in deal flow and escrows, big fund, and ultimately clients that are committing to do 40 deals with you. And it's just like, it's all happening so quickly. And it's just one of those humble pie, right? Yeah. It's just like, you're here because you put in the reps, because you treated the people along the way the right way, and you didn't deviate and you didn't take shortcuts and you gave up on the for sure things to do the hard thing. And I just think if there's a lesson out there for any of you guys, it's don't take the shortcuts. Don't do the short-term pain to, not have the long-term gain. Everything that you do is just a rep and it's a lesson, and you're setting up yourself for the future version. And that's where you get, you get to your mid 40s and, you got your kid's birthday party, and that's all that matters at this point, right?
So I want to make sure I ask two questions. So first for you, you're talking about what he says is you've got an incredible ability to just pick up the phone and find money.
I actually go and I fly to events. I hang out at, Trump Doral. I go to F1 events. I Jets and Capital. Tim Mai is a mentor of mine in the capital raising space. I joined his mastermind, and he invited me to speak on his stage at his Hero Capital Alliance events for 3 different events in a row. I was able to speak on his stage. I put myself in the right rooms, and then I try to figure out ways to serve. And it's not always about give me money. It's about like, hey, I'm doing this, you're doing this. How can I help you? And I don't ask for anything from anybody. That's the biggest thing, is that it's weird because it's almost like I have no problem asking for money. I just tell people what I do. And then I usually get them to ask more questions. And then I have no problem asking for money. I plant the seed to get interest, and that's pretty much it. But I always just dive into what they do, and I figure out ways to provide value.
If you were a slogan, you'd be Nike. Just do it. Like there's no hesitation.
Yeah, I'm not afraid to be embarrassed.
No, and he's very comfortable in uncomfortable situations. So like if it's not hard, it's just new, right? But we get super uncomfortable with it. And so where most people will hesitate or just delay or procrastinate doing, if we talk about it, it's usually the next day there's some progress that's been made, and I'm like, well shit, now I got to catch up. And so like
that's Bryant. So for you, you're talking about the credibility when you pick up the phone, like they'll take you seriously. So like, who were some of the biggest clients that you served? I've got some big news, and you'll want to hear all of this because I'm gonna give you the best bonus ever at the end of this video. You all know that I've been providing sales training for 6 years now, and I've had the opportunity to train hundreds of the best teams in the country and thousands of individuals as well. And they've all had wild success along the way, some of which you've even seen on this podcast. You also know Ian Ross, who has been coaching alongside me now for over 2 years. He's the biggest sales geek ever, and he's been training business owners and individual contributors ever since he started working here. He even runs the Close More Sales podcast. But we had a problem. There was a lot of confusion. What is it exactly that we sell here? Is it Disruptors training? Is it Steve Trang training? Or is it Close More Sales training? It's none of those. It is objection-proof selling. Ian runs objection-proof selling for business owners and individuals. I run objection-proof selling for teams where I coach their entire team. And to celebrate the rebrand, I want to give you something that I never would have thought been possible until recently. We've been training this AI bot for over a year now to score all of our sales calls internally. Every call we run, we have the bot review the call to Ian and mine exact standards for sales. We run every one of our team members' calls through the same exact AI bot. And now we're giving it to you for free. This bot will review your calls based on dozens and dozens of metrics. It will tell you what you did well, what you can do better, again, by the standards of the objection-proof selling formula. And if you want to use our bot for free, just head over to our website, objectionproof.ai. Again, objectionproof.ai. I want to emphasize here, you're getting access to our bot, which allows you to get better at sales for free so that you can make even more money now without having to spend another dollar. Go check it out now.
I was the McDonald's rep for Phoenix for 7 years.
So that's a pretty big one.
Yeah. And I mean, that's a story in and of itself, how I got that client. Like I did what other people wouldn't.
Let's talk about it.
I wanted to work with McDonald's. They had a rep they'd worked with for like 15 years. And here I am, some young broker, and I have no business, and I'm calling. I can't get a phone call. And I know I have a site. I know this. And this is before Google Earth and all that. Like Google Earth was just coming out.
Yeah.
They didn't have all the software. They had big giant map books and all that kind of stuff. I mean, this is when we had the whole wall of like the aerial photos for Phoenix. Remember those? Now I go over to my buddies at Western Retail. They have one of those and they turn it into pop art with like different colors faded into it and stuff. But I knew that this was a McDonald's site, and the crazy part today, it's one of the top performing McDonald's in Phoenix. It was an old Irish bar. I'd finally gotten the owners to tell me they wanted to retire. It was on Hard Corner, some Walmart across the street, and I couldn't get them to answer. So I literally was like, look, if I can, this is a deal, and I know I can make this work. Let me go talk to them and pick like 5 or 10 other sites I think work. So I took the time and I created these things inside Google Earth, and we couldn't take it on a laptop because we didn't have Apple laptops. But I printed them all out, and I had this big binder, showed their existing sites, had circles, did all this. And I went down to their office and I asked if I could talk to the real estate director, and they're like, do you have a meeting? No. Well, you can't get in there. I'm like, I'll wait. And I waited and I waited. And then I waited, and it was like a whole day went by, and the receptionist told me, come back tomorrow. I think they'll have some time, or they'll be heading out for a meeting, around 11 a.m. So I came back the next day, and I sat there, and I was like, I'll just wait. And then finally they came out, and she kind of pointed at him, and I walked up, and I was like, hey, I need to introduce myself. My name's Kristian. I've tried to call you. She's like, I know who you are. I'm like, I just need to show you this site. And she was like, what's that? And I said, it's a book. And I put together a whole bunch of sites. She said, really? Can you come back tomorrow? And so I came back, and I went through this whole book, and I went through my whole process of why I thought this would work without knowing their numbers and what they mean. She said, this is good. This is really good. I'm going to give you a shot. And so she started telling me, this is where we want to be. Can you go find us a site? Can you do this? And over a 5-6 year run with them, I did like 15 deals.
Yeah.
And it wasn't always the easiest deals. Like there's a lot of deals that I tried to work on that didn't turn into anything, but that led into doing other deals, and it helped me build my credibility.
Yeah. I mean, definitely, right. You took the time to figure out what they need. And then once you get one of those guys in your pocket, like you've done it.
Oh,
anyone else?
I love her to this day. She's retired now, but that was like, I always credit her. I call her, Mama D, Mama Darla. Yeah. She helped make my career.
Yeah, absolutely. And
there's always those single people that just have pivotal moments where your career shifts, and that's again how I feel about you, Steve. Like the fact that I was able to, join you on those runs, and you were able to introduce me to Pace as my contractor, and Jesse was able to introduce me to you because you needed a merchandise thing, and Jesse also introduced me to Brandon Simmons and the Go Givers and that whole group, and brought me to my first meeting where I met every one of you guys. And so I don't know, I feel so blessed and so energized. And I know you said don't hit the table, but man, I just want to let you know how much of a big, blessing that you are in my journey.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for saying that. Mm-hmm. So one more question and then we'll wrap up. So what is the difference between McDonald's and, you were saying those apartments you're doing, right? Because you've got to work with all sorts of different, for someone that hasn't had a taste, right? See what it's like to work with a corporate client. Like, what is the biggest difference?
Yeah, I mean, I won't poo-poo on anybody's dreams of owning apartments. It's just not my, it's not my flavor, right? There's something different about I guess I'd call it almost like the level of professionalism. Even though we don't have to wear a shirt and tie and be in like the corporate setting, there are times where it calls for that, and you have to read the room. But when you work with the Circle K's and the Starbucks and the McDonald's and, all these different, the Chipotles of the world, there's just something like a sense of accomplishment when you're working with that level of tenant. That there's that much financial scrutiny and success and everything that goes behind it. It takes a long, long time. I talk about this all the time on our podcast. It's not, you got to pay your dues. Rent is due every single day. Like, you don't just jump into it. It's gate kept. It's a blue blood network. And that's almost what I love about the fact that where you want to get into that network, you got to get into it with us. You have to invest in Clever Capital. You have to invest with us because me and Phil and, the people on our team have put in that 20 years of blood, sweat, and tears to get to a point where now you can go into a new market and we can pick up the phone and say, hey, can you introduce me to your counterpart here? And when you come in and we're vying for the same site as 2 other people, what's your track record? Your track record speaks for itself. So we get chosen. Our offers get chosen over somebody else's because of what we've done in the past. So the apartments, it's fine. And I know a lot of people that make a lot of money. It's just at the end of the day, the time that it takes and the speculation that's involved all the way up until that time, there's too many variables that I don't feel like I can control. And with what we do, I feel like I can at least pull the strings enough as we're going along to mitigate risk and adjust for the risk. And if something comes up, I usually there's a plan B or a plan C or a plan D.
Yeah. Well, I like that. Last thoughts when we leave all the listeners with. I'll start with you first.
I would say that even though I feel like I'm doing a lot of different things, and sometimes I question myself, do I have shiny object syndrome? Why do I have a fund? Why do I have an event center? Why do I have a development business? Why do I have a home service business, right? Why do I have a wholesaling business? Why do I do this to myself? Why can't I just be a dad and just spend time with my family? I look at it as like I am setting the discipline up for my daughter. I am showing her hard work ethic. I am proving that every day when I wake up and go to work and every day when I come home, I provide for my family. I've been able to retire my wife. She's an amazing woman. She's a nurse, biology degree, everything. She doesn't have to work anymore. She's able to spend time with her daughter. So there is a purpose. There is a why. And why do I do development, and why do I do home service, and why are we starting our construction business? Because it's all vertically integrated in real estate. Everything that we're doing in real estate, the event center is within a company of a building that's in a holding business that I own, and that I host my accredited investor dinners, and I host meetups, and I host events that I get to come, that I meet people, and we do about 50 events a year, and that moves the business for my other businesses. And so I think everybody likes to point fingers and say, you're not going to be successful because you're doing this and you're doing this and you're doing too much. If it's vertically integrated and it is in the same reason and industry of what your ultimate main business is, my main business is real estate. Mm-hmm. So if having an event center or having a luxury Airbnb or having a construction business or having a material sourcing business or having a home service business relates to real estate, then I'm in.
Yeah. Like it. Last thoughts.
Success leaves clues. Doing the right thing is always the right thing to do.
Yeah.
If it doesn't feel right, don't do it.
Yeah, I like
and that includes partners and deals.
If someone wants to work with you guys, what's the best way?
Hungry-inc.com is our website. We're on YouTube, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this guy's got a great podcast here teaching you how to become a millionaire. If you want to get into commercial real estate, make sure and go follow and subscribe, like, subscribe, smash that bell. Do all those things at Hungry Investments on YouTube. You can find us on Instagram at Hungry Investments, Clever Capital Fund on Instagram as well. Everything connects between Clever Capital and Hungry Investments.
Awesome. How about someone wants to work with you?
Yeah, I think the first start is just, become part of our deal. It's an equity fund. $50K gets you into our deal. It gets you paid quarterly. You get to learn why we bought the deal, how we pivoted on the deal, how much money we made on the deal, and just become part of what we're doing over here at clevercapitalfund.com.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Steve.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys next time.
Shout out to Steve Train. Jump on the Steve Train. Disruptors.